time to call to order the September Elizabethan Board of Education meeting. And at this time, we'll begin with a moment of silence followed by the pledge to the flag. So I'll turn it over to Mr. Van Huss.
Please pause for a moment of silence. Please rise. Thank you. Attention, salute, pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
At this time, it's time to approve the consent agenda and the regular agenda. Can I get a motion to approve?
Make a motion to approve consent and regular agenda.
And second?
Second.
Okay. Everybody okay with the way it's presented and everything? Okay. All those in favor of approving, please say aye. Aye. And there are none that are opposed. It's now time for citizens to speak, and we didn't have anybody request to speak. So I don't know if anyone's here that was interested in that. So we will move on. We have time for special recognition. Normally we do this at the beginning of the school year. It's kind of the downtime for recognition. We've not had enough time to do some special things, but they'll keep coming, and we always look forward to that.
I think we'll have one next month.
Okay. All right. So now we'll move down to the director's update. Mr. Van Huss.
All right, thank you, Mr. Pless. Just a couple things. First of all, some great news, and we're very, very proud of this. You may have seen this in a press release from the Tennessee Department of Education today, or actually yesterday, and maybe even we've pushed this information out through social media, but we had 4 schools that achieved reward status for the 21-22 school year. It's Eastside Elementary, Harold McCormick Elementary, Westside Elementary, and T.A. Duggar Junior High School. And so this is a combination of, when you look at those factors, achievement as well as growth. There's a new way that they do this this year. In the past, you could potentially be a reward school based on achievement or growth. Well, now they've taken both of those measures, combined those, and through a process, they come up with a number on a 1 to 4 scale. And then anyone that scores 3.1 or higher qualifies as a reward school. And so I think that's tremendous that we had that many schools within the district that achieved reward status. When you think about, first of all, you all have such a tremendous impact on that. You've supported us every step of the way as we've wanted to do some different things to improve programs in the school, increase staffing in certain areas. We spent a lot of time focusing on early literacy and things like that. You think about all those different things, and I'm going to talk about Best for All in a minute, and I'll list some others. But the teachers, staff members, students, parents, community supporters, it takes a village, and all of those individuals and groups have a part in celebrating with us and celebrating with these students and the staff of these schools. So we're very, very proud of that. And again, just a tremendous amount of work went into achieving that. So also, last year we were recognized as a Best for All district. And basically what that meant is that to qualify for a Best for All district, you had to spend at least 50% of our ESSER 3 amount. At least 50% of that had to go toward investments in reducing the effects of learning loss due to the pandemic. And we met that threshold. And based on that, next week is going to be all about Elizabethan City Schools and the Best for All recognition across the state. So they'll be highlighting a component that we have implemented through our Best for All and our ESSER funds. They'll highlight that one each day next week. So what are some of those things we did with that? Again, we made investments in T&L Core, the tutoring program that we had, that we started, and now we've even taken that a step further with the Project on Track, and you all were nice enough to approve some positions with that last week to do some of those same type interventions that we did with T&L Core with ELA, now also with math. Dr. Newman is serving on a TN All-Core Advisory Council, a statewide council. There's only 6 members on that council, and Dr. Newman is one of those. So not only are we implementing the program, but our TN All-Core tutoring program is recognized as a leader in the state. So we thank her for all of her work, as well as all those individuals that we have in those positions, and the principals as well, making that work. And just the growth that we saw from that program last year is a big reason why those 4 schools are in reward status. We're also a member of the Early Literacy Network, and we're also a Reading 360 district, and those are all focusing, again, on that early literacy component. We've also invested a lot of our ESSER dollars on high-quality ELA materials for instruction. That's also another component of that early literacy focus that really made a difference last year as well. When you think all the way back to ESSER, the 1.0 funds, we spent a lot of those dollars on technology to try to get us one-to-one so that every student had a device. We also purchased the box lot boards, these panels, and we have 2 of them in here as well in every classroom. So we changed out all the smart boards to these. That's been a real technology blessing for our teachers and our students as well. Teacher laptops as well, and we've also purchased different software platforms that have made a difference as well. The high school's using Canvas, just to highlight one of those. And then you think about all the support staff that we've been able to hire with these funds. We've hired a district implementation coach, which has worked with the TN All-Core as well as early literacy. Also, instructional technology coach that works with teachers in K through 8, helps them integrate all this technology that we've added. Quite frankly, teachers just don't have time to research and find all those ways that they can utilize that. So this technology coach helps them with that, as well as a school social worker, which we've never had that position before. So those are just 5 of the things that you'll see highlighted next week. So certainly keep an eye out for that next week on social media. Again, we've mentioned Meg Foster and the fact that she was a Teacher of the Year finalist for the state. And Dr. Minton and I had an opportunity to go down last month to Nashville for when they selected the State Teacher of the Year. Although Meg did not receive the State Teacher of the Year, we're still extremely proud of her. She made a great point. She said when they announced the winner and her son was there, and he patted her arm and said, "I'm sorry you didn't win, Mom." And she said, "Oh no, this is the winner's circle. Everyone here's already won. That's just additional accolades." So that's the same way we look at it. She's a winner, and we're just so thankful to have her in the system. So she's part of an advisory panel as well. Last year's Teacher of the Year finalists, as well as the ones for this year, and they're working closely with the State Department on different initiatives there. She also had the opportunity on Monday to represent the district in Knoxville. First Lady Dr. Jill Biden was in town to recognize the state and highlight the Grow Your Own initiative. In the state, of course, in Elizabethan, we partner with Milligan. We have 3 of our employees that are going through that program, and again, that's grant funded, and those 3 employees that we have are going to Milligan, receiving their certification and their degree to teach, and that's all free of charge through this grant. So we're excited to be a part of that, and glad that she was able to go and represent us there. So that's my report today. At this time, though, I would like to recognize Mr. Hurley. He's going to share a couple of thoughts with you, and then introduce Ms. Holman. She's going to talk to you a little bit about a 4-H program that they would like to implement at Eastside Elementary.
Good evening. Thanks for allowing this time to do this. Last year sometime, Ms. Holman stopped me in the hallway and said, "Mr. Hurley, I got an idea." And I said, "Well, what is it, Ms. Holman?" She said, "I think we need 4-H." And I said, "Well, if you can make it work, let's do it." And as soon as I said that, Ms. Holman went to work. So we're going to ask her to come on up. Called Mr. Van Us, told him we'd like to start this at Eastside for our 4th and 5th grade students. That's where 4-H starts. And he said, "Well, if you can make it happen, just come and present to the board so you guys kind of know what we have going on." It's a super exciting, a new thing that we can do obviously based off what our high school students are doing in ag. And it's amazing. And then I really got more excited because my time at Camp Explorer was something I'd never done before in my 8 years of being a principal. And then I realized that the excitement that our kids had for something like this made this even more exciting when she came to me and said, I've got it ready. So she's going to kind of give you the schedule we're going to do, give you some of the things that they will be doing with our kids. And so just thanks for the opportunity to share this a little bit while we're doing it at Eastside.
If you open your folder on the left side, you'll see a schedule. So 4-H is for 4th and 5th grade students on an elementary level, but we do have the opportunity, if it goes well, to bump it up into T.A. Duggar at the middle school. We wanted to get it started last year, but they were short-staffed, as a whole lot of other places were. But they have, I think they've picked their candidate who is supposed to take over 4-H for us. So again, 4th and 5th grade, if you open it up, you'll see that it will replace guidance once per week, once a month. And that will be Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. So that person will go into the classroom, work with those students, and then she'll go to the next classroom after. And that should allow her to serve all of our 4th and 5th grade students. Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, like I said, once a month. On the front of your folder, you'll see a little card, and that tells you a contact. If you want to reach out, there is a website address that takes you directly to the 4-H page, and you can scroll down. It tells you about scholarships. It tells you about their programs, all of those things. That's probably your best resource is that website. But if you open your folder, I put together just a little bit about 4-H. They do contests, so they have a public speaking contest. We know that all our kids can use that, whether they're going, to a 4-year college or they're going a technical path. That's something all of our kids could use. Then they have another contest that is a poster contest, a demonstration contest, and then as you flip through, you'll see some different lesson plans, just the curriculum that they will be using. I know Mr. Hurley felt like that was important for you to see what would they be teaching, what materials would they use, what standards does it align to. So it tells you what the public speaking lesson looks like. It has a rubric on the back so that there's a scorecard, an explanation of everything. You can go through, there's one that says electing a president, so it talks about the Electoral College. Our kids, until they get older, are clueless about that stuff. It's important, and they don't understand how it all works, so I think that's important for them to get to participate in that. And I think that's it as far as lesson plans go. As they get into 6th, 7th, and 8th, I think that's more where the ag part of it kicks in, and they can do projects with chickens or cattle. They can show cattle, which some of the other area schools are already doing these things. Miss Julie Smith that I work with has 2 teenagers at Hampton High School, and they're big into that stuff. So I've seen how this can impact kids. Not every kid plays sports. Not every kid plays an instrument. So I think it would be something good to either beef it up for those kids that do those things and give them other things they can participate in, or an alternative. So other than that, that's it.
Thank you.
This is great. I appreciate you being willing to lead this charge. And again, we have a tremendous ag program at the high school, and so this will do nothing but accent that and allow those students to kind of understand what that's all about way before they have opportunities to take those classes at the high school. And so I'll be curious to see how it goes, and then maybe we'll hit up Mr. Berry about find a way to implement that at T.A. Duggar as well.
Okay, we are eager to do it at Eastside, and we don't expect that it'll get kicked off at Westside or Harold McCormick this year, but the option is open if they want to join in on this.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Anything else?
That's all for me.
All
Thank you.
right. So now it's time for board member reports. Any board member have anything they need to report on? I know we didn't have any events this week or this month. One thing I will say, but I'll hold off and ask Gracie first. I don't want to steal any of her thunder. I don't know if you're going to mention the Tuffy. Okay, so I was told. I will say what she's going to tell you about something that's going on at the high school is awesome, and I'll just leave it. I'll let her tell that. So, okay, time for Mr. Simley, City Council Liaison's report. Come on. You got anything? We'll note that.
Mr.
We'll note
Simmerly is
that.
speechless,
Yes.
so.
All right, then Gracie. Oh, huh? Oh, we'll need you. Yeah. So, okay, Miss Gracie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, like you mentioned earlier, Tuffy's Cafe. It's something new that's opened within Elizabethan High School. It's like a little coffee shop. They sell coffee, tea, lemonade, all kinds of flavors. It was initially started by one of our entrepreneurship classes with Miss Wilbur. They kind of came up with this idea of, like high school students are tired and high school students need coffee. So they were like, this is something that's super great for students. The ribbon cutting was yesterday. The Chamber of Commerce was in attendance, as well as people from the board, Mr. Van Haas, and some of the students who helped start it, such as Michelle Worley and Owen Wampler, etc. They opened Friday and made $480
Oh.
Wow.
on opening day, which is like crazy ridiculous. It's been super successful. It's something that I know that every student was super excited for. It's like, yes, coffee, cheap coffee.
Yeah.
So that's something that's been really great that's been going on. They're open from 7 to 7:45 in the morning and then through all third periods. So there's plenty of opportunities for students to go in there and get stuff like that. So that's been a great thing that has been kicking up really well. SGA formal was approved for the 24th. The presidents Carly Lloyd and Gabe Short would like to thank the board for allowing them to use Elizabethan High School as a event center and things like that. So October 15th, there's going to be a nurse drive in the Elizabethan High School Auxiliary Gym. It's going to be a collaboration of Elizabethan High School and surrounding county schools such as Unaka, Happy Valley, etc., for collecting donations that school nurses are going to be able to use to help students, such as snacks, clothing, health products, hygiene products, anything that students might need that they might not be able to afford. It's from 8 a.m. to 6 p.m. Everyone's welcome. You can bring things. You can come help. So that's another thing that's going on. SGA has currently been mentioning the idea of partnering with county schools and possibly elementary/junior high schools to have a clothing drive. So I know at Elizabethan High School we have a clothing closet, and since it has been successful in donations regarding that sense, but I don't know how advertised it is and how many students know that it's there, and that's something that I know SGA wants to make accessible and knowledgeable to all students regarding economic standpoint, anything like that. So it was thrown in the air, the idea of working with SGA from Unaka, Happy Valley, Hampton, and also helping elementary and junior high kids, because although this is something that clothing closet, you think high school, it's not necessarily just high schoolers that need those things. And we talked about having a big clothing drive. Everyone from the community is able to bring in things, gently used or new clothing, preferably. And it would be an opportunity for students to get volunteer hours to take that time to go through the clothes, clean the closet, make it a more welcoming, safer environment so students that can feel that they are able to use that because it's there for a reason. So that's been something that's been going on, talk of it's going ongoing approval and kind of just sorting out all the details and stuff like that. The student ambassador class, the new class, has been leading tours throughout the school, which has been super great to freshmen and new students. They've been highlighting certain things such as like the new cultural that we put in place, the Cyclone Alley, and even new classes offered. So that's been something that's super good that's been happening recently. And that's pretty much all from me. It's everything that's been happening.
Thank you. And again, just to say this, the Betsy Brew at the Tuffy Cafe, it's when I think about having been, and Mr. O'Quinn knows this too, having been a principal in that building, and to walk in now and see the things that are going on is refreshing. It's really it's unbelievable. We used to dream about things like that, but that's where it kind of ended. And I know we've had some partnerships that have helped and some other things, but just the ideas that the students have, their kind of drive to make some things happen. The ambassador, I was kind of tutored on what the ambassador program was the other day. Unbelievable. I mean, and I know, and all the while we're still doing academics and we're still performing at a high level in music and other things and theater and athletics and everything. So school's just very different than it was 10 years ago, and that's a good thing. Not that it was bad then, but it's much improved. So, yeah, well, a student really has very little excuse to say they don't have a place to tap in. There's really, and I think if somebody's like that, I think there are students that will find a place for them too. They'll figure out a way to get something for them. So thank you. Okay.
If it's okay, I want to see if Dr. Minton would maybe just want to take just a second and mention kind of how Tuffy's Cafe came to this point, Tuffy's Coffee Shop, Cafe, excuse me. Because there's some interesting partnerships that took place, and I just kind of wanted him to kind of brief you on that and how that transpired.
Yeah, I'd be happy to. Thank you. And it's been an interesting, really, couple years because the original application or submission for the coffee shop was over a couple years ago, pre-pandemic. It was an idea that was floated, but a lot of things got in the way, in between them. Our XQ grant was instrumental in that also, but we had some community partners like Carter County Bank and the Chamber of Commerce, Coffee Company, Doe River Roasters on our community partnership advisory group who heard about the idea and felt like they could step up and help. And so through some grant funding with them and some donations, and also the East Tennessee Foundation, we just found out yesterday, added an additional $2,000 grant to give to them as part of their it's an entrepreneurship course, obviously, and so it kind of fits the mold of some of the things that are out there. There was a grant through CTE that was available. We applied for it and wasn't able to secure it, but there were other school systems in the state or other high schools in the state who qualified for the grant for a similar reason. So for whatever reason that we didn't get it. But we were able to, again, use some of our community partnership connections and things that were going on with our community partnership advisory group and the XQ grant to get it started. And one of the interesting things that I noticed on the very first day was I told them I'd like to be the first customer because I'm a coffee connoisseur anyway, and it takes that to get going in the morning. So I went inside, and the 5 students who were there working had been there since about 6:40 already, and they were working, and they had kind of this somber look on their face. And I was really sure that it had to do with the fact that they were getting up out of bed a lot earlier than they normally were. But what had happened was that a refrigerator had failed the night before. They weren't able to get ice like they anticipated for iced coffee. And so they were running into problems that any business owner would run into. And so they were having to critically think and troubleshoot through all of it, try to figure out a way, obviously on the busiest day that they've had so far, to pump out a good product. And so they've learned a lot throughout all of it. We were able to go down to Doe River Roasters last year and take a look at just how coffee comes into our town. So they've learned a little bit about what a big product that is, and Coffee Company's been really good about just teaching them a little bit about customer service and things that are important about the advertising and marketing. So it's been a really good experience, and so there's obviously some health and nutrition guidelines that we had to be respectful of with what things that the state puts out about calorie contents and caffeine contents and things like that. So we're trying to keep that in mind all at the same time, trying to provide a neat atmosphere. And the library media center didn't smell bad, but it smells way better now because that coffee's going on. So yeah. So thank you. We just appreciate your support. And if you ever want a cup of coffee, stop by from 7 to 7:45 and during third period. Right? Yeah. Thanks.
And $2, I think, is the cost. That's I'd go find that somewhere else. Yeah.
I just think the neat part is without that community advisory board that was in the building and heard the presentation, there's several people that provided funds to make this happen that wouldn't have even known about that. So that just shows we've always known that there's community partners that want to help and support our students, and that advisory board has promoted that opportunity. So it's fantastic, and we'd like to see that expand as we continue to move forward. So
okay. All right, it's now time for the regular agenda. First item, consideration of disciplinary hearing authority appeal to the Elizabethan City School Board of Education, case number 001-08-192022. So can I get a motion to consider?
I make a motion to uphold the decision assigned by the DHA.
Okay. So have a motion to uphold the decision by the DHA. Is there a second? Okay.
I'm sorry. I think that probably what we need to do is determine whether or not you want to have a board hearing.
Okay.
And then, yeah, and then attach that comment with
Okay.
that, if that makes sense.
Okay. So again, the appeal's been made to have a hearing before the Board of Education. So any comments or questions there? Or a motion there? I would make a motion to uphold the decision or to deny the request to have a board hearing and uphold the request of the DHA. That would be my my recommendation.
Second.
And we have a second. Is there any discussion? Okay. The item is to uphold or to deny, to deny the appeal for the board to hear this appeal and to uphold the DHA authority decision. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. And any opposed? And there are none. And I apologize if I botched that. So hopefully
that's okay.
hopefully we're good. Not something that we not something we go very often. Next item on the agenda, to approve Elizabethan City Schools Board of Education resolution regarding requested amendments to the third grade retention law. Can I get a motion to approve?
Motion to approve.
And a second?
Second.
Second. I'm going to hand this off to Mr. Van Hust to kind of weave us through this.
Absolutely. So I'm sure you've heard over the last couple of years, this has been in place for a while. It was just the start of this, the effective date was delayed through the COVID years, and a lot of this legislation is tied to TISA funding. They wanted to put some more teeth in accountability for school systems. This is an aside, this is not the board's opinion, this is just Richard Van Hust's opinion. Show me another field other than maybe the medical field that's more accountable than education. I would challenge you to find one. But nevertheless, we never have problem with having high standards, and we certainly feel that way. No one feels worse if we have a student that, doesn't score well than the teachers and the staff members that work with them. So there's already that part there. There are a lot of things about the third grade retention that is very concerning to me and our staff. We have developed basically a third grade retention task force made up of members of the administrative team across the district to look at this and see how, based on the way the current legislation is written, how we would manage that. So there's a couple of things that I want to kind of walk you through here to make sure you understand kind of the way this plays out. So essentially, every third grade student in the state of Tennessee will take a third grade ELA TCAP along with other TCAP tests. But if they don't score on track or mastered on the third grade ELA test, so if they score approaching or below, they're a candidate for retention. And so what that means is if they're in the approaching category, which is just below, so it's mastered, on track, approaching, and below. The top two are passing, the bottom two are not. If you're in the approaching category, you have two options. The first one is you have to attend summer school, which we've had the summer learning camps the last few years. Or you can agree, the parent would agree for the student to be in basically the TN All Core program that we have, and that would be for their entire fourth grade year, they would be in that tutoring program. Then in fourth grade, they'll take the fourth grade ELA TCAP, and if they don't show Adequate growth, I think, is the language they use. We really don't know what that means. That will be determined by the State Department, whatever adequate growth is. They may be still yet be retained instead of third grade, then fourth grade. Okay? There is an appeals process, but it's very specific. It's if that child has had some type of traumatic event during the course of that year. That's the language that's in there right now, would be the only thing that someone could appeal. If you're if you score in the bottom category, you have to be enrolled in the summer learning camp, and you have to agree to do the tutoring the entire fourth grade year. And when you take the fourth grade TCAP, you have to show adequate growth again, whatever that means, or you could still be retained in fourth grade. Also, with the summer camp, not only do you just have to go, but you have to be there and you have to have 90% attendance. And on the post-test, you take a pre-test when you start summer school and then a post-test at the end. And guess what on the post-test? You have to show adequate growth. And again, we don't know what that means. So there's lots of things in there that are extremely vague that we're not really sure what that's going to look like. We already, as you know, there's already a teacher shortage across the country. Our concern is that this will just add to that teacher shortage. I can see the possibility of a lot of people not wanting to teach third or fourth grade. I think when you talk about the tutoring program that we have in place, that's doing tremendous things, it may be flooded with individuals that may have to have that tutoring. So we may have to look at some other ways to meet that tutoring requirement from a staffing standpoint. There's a lot of information that's not there. Again, I want to believe that the intention on this was good, because research shows that if students aren't proficient on third grade reading test, that they're more likely to be a dropout. Well, there's a couple things there as well. The third grade ELA TCAP test is really not a reading test. So there's another issue that we have. So it's really not measuring exactly what this law is based on. But that's the only thing we have. That's really not the only thing we have. As you know, we do benchmark testing across the system. In the elementary level, we do it 3 times a year. So we feel like that there's some really valuable data that we could use to make an informed decision. Right now, this is a decision based on one day, one test. We haven't even talked about the students that, if we identify students that we feel like may score in one of those bottom categories, we're being proactive. We're putting them in tutoring. We're encouraging the parents to enroll them in the summer school programs and things like that. But what about a student that doesn't fall in those bottom 2 categories on benchmark, previous scores? They just have a bad test day. I don't see anything in the appeals process that would allow that student. I think they're just going to be in that. Now, you could say they do have another opportunity. They're going to provide another opportunity for them to retake the TCAP sometime during the summer. But then you've got all these issues with that as well, timing. I say right now the appeals process opens on May 30th. Well, we'll already have started our summer learning camp by then. If they allow them to do a retake, there's no way that can happen and us get scores back before those learning camps start. So there may be kids that do that, end up testing out on the retest. But just the timeline is just a mess. There's just so many little pieces of this that don't make sense. Our concern also is, quite frankly, most of the research shows that retention really doesn't have a positive impact. There's definitely mixed results. Most of the other states that have implemented third grade retention, there is that possibility, and that possibilities on different ways that you can opt out. And they also take into all these other pieces of data that schools have that, quite frankly, our legislation just ignores. So that's a concern. If they're looking at other states that implemented this, they're not implementing the same thing. This is much more rigorous, and quite frankly, I feel like it's going to be detrimental to students. You know, something else we're going to have to think about, and this won't play out until these students reach high school. We have a large group of students that are, let's say in their junior year, they turn 18. If things aren't going just like they want, guess what they can do? They can drop out, which is what this whole thing is intended to minimize, is dropouts. But I fear that this is actually going to increase the opportunities and the chances that a student may drop out. Now, I'm not saying that I don't feel like that third grade, students reading on third grade level are very important. All those things I just read to you in Best for All, a large chunk of them focus on early literacy. How many times when I was reading through those, did you hear early literacy, TNR core tutoring, all these things, high quality ELA materials, all those things. I would propose to you that we've taken our ESSER dollars and spent them in ways to address third grade reading. And we've seen, again, tremendous growth in just implementing a lot of these early literacy programs just last year, and not really a full year of implementation. So I think you're going to see tremendous growth. And we had a great year last year. We have 4 reward schools. I think you're going to see the same thing again, just because our staff is much more comfortable with it. Number 2, they believe in it because they've seen the results and they've seen the way students interact and they've seen that growth in students. And then just number 4 is doing it for a full year. So I would propose to you, we're already doing things to address that. We don't need this legislation. There are a couple of ways that students may not be retained if they're an ELA, an ELL student, an English language learner, and they've received less than 2 years of ELA instruction. They could be moved on. There's some allowances for students with IEPs and things like that. But if a student's ever been retained in earlier grades, they wouldn't be a candidate for retention again. But still, it's just way too vague, and quite frankly, the way it's written, it's not going to achieve what the desired result is. So with all that being said, that's basically what this resolution points out, those things, and basically just says that we need the opportunity to, at the very least, to utilize all this other data that we have. That's very, very good. And the tool that we currently use to benchmark is the best tool we've ever had that matches up with student scores on the benchmark test and then how they perform on TCAP. That's not perfect, but it's the best thing we've ever had. In a few situations, it's matched up exactly. So what I'm saying is that's a summary of data that we take over from a student over a course of a year. Why would we not use that? Why is that not part of this discussion? It's all about one test. So I apologize for that long explanation, but there's a lot more questions than answers. And quite frankly, if we felt like this was going to be good for students, we probably wouldn't have this on here. But the majority, we met yesterday, and the majority of the time dealt with, well, how are we going to do this? How are we going to do this? What does this even mean? So there's a lot of I don't knows. Now, do we anticipate a large number of students that won't pass third grade? No. But when you start thinking about, if a school has 10 kids, 15 kids, well, now all of a sudden you're in a situation where if these 10 or 15 have to be retained, you're going to have to make decisions on, if it's third grade retention, you may have to move a fourth grade teacher down to help cover those. And again, what if it's in between? We may have to hire another teacher. There's all kinds of implications on how to make this work that I just don't think's been thought through. So, does anyone have any questions about that?
Do you have any idea, like for instance, based on this year, how many students we may have had? Did we look at that, or
What was the number? 65.
65 would have been retained based on the law as it's written.
65 out of 200, 180, 185.
So a third.
61 out of 185.
And again, I just think I keep hearing we're a reward school, and I knew third grade did unbelievably well. So here you have a school that's recognized as really getting the job done, or schools that are getting it done, and yet 1 out of 3 would fall, into that. Those are, and again, it will be different at every school every year. So one year, one school could just get hammered, and it could really disrupt things. And I think as a general rule, our teachers have done a great job of making some of those determinations about what's best, along with the parent meeting and everything in the past. So I understand why there's concern.
Yeah, sure. But I mean, you think about the summer camps that we have, and again, the T and all Corps. We're fine putting those students in those because we know the way that we're running those. We've seen the results. We're confident that those things are going to help. But there's no guarantee, and that could be something devastating for a student to be forced to be retained because they didn't perform well on tests. I just think that's detrimental on many levels for students.
Yeah. And I guess I'm just thinking, if we're a reward school, what are some districts fighting? What are their numbers, their percentage? How on earth would maybe a system that struggled this year, or some other things? Just I can't imagine what. I mean, it's going to be hard enough when you feel like you kind of have your some advantages. But anyway, okay.
And we need to get this word out to families, parents. The state's put together a third grade retention toolkit, is what it's called, and it has some welcome letters in there to send to parents. There's nothing welcoming in the information that's included. So I appreciate that help, but that really doesn't help. So there's a lot of work that we're going to have to do to get the word out, and as well as contacting our legislators to let them know our concerns. And I'll certainly be doing that. So.
Okay. Any other comments or questions?
I just sort of feel like, private schools could benefit greatly from what's being put on us. I think I'm not going to, I hate to say what I really think, but it can make a school system look very poor when in fact the opposite is the case. And I don't think that some of the people that came up with these ideas were looking to serve public education at all. That's just my feeling on that. It just private school thing, I got to get them into private schools or whatever, which is fine if that's what a family wants to do. But I just think it's ridiculous, some of the stuff you're talking about that has to be done.
Well, again, I appreciate you all doing the research, and I'm glad to hear that other people feel very similarly to what we do. So, okay. So the item is to approve Elizabethan City Schools Board of Education resolution regarding requested amendments to the third grade retention law. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. And any opposed? And there are none. Next item, to approve Elizabethan City Schools Board of Education resolution in support of the system's professional educators. Can I get a motion to approve?
Motion to approve.
And a second?
Second.
Second. You want me to take this?
Sure. Yes, sir.
Just in light of all the rhetoric, based on comments made about public ed and public school teachers and colleges that are training them and that type thing. I think our system knows that our teachers, that we really appreciate them, but with lack of maybe a response from government officials and things like that, we just felt like we needed to acknowledge publicly, and I know other systems have done this as well. But I'm just going to read this very quickly, and this will be what we'll be voting on. It's the resolution of the Elizabethan City Schools Board of Education in support of the professional educators of Elizabethan City Schools, whereas Resolution 23-01 acknowledges the importance of an excellent public education system to both the quality of life and the economic prosperity of the city of Elizabethton, and whereas the Governor of Tennessee has failed to defend the excellent teachers across our state, and whereas the resolution acknowledges the outstanding level of competence and professionalism of our Elizabethan City Schools professional educators, and the vital role they play in nurturing and preparing students for a life of scholarship, integrity, and service. And whereas the Elizabethan City Schools Board of Education hereby offer our unwavering support for Elizabethan City Schools professional educators and thank them for their accomplishments and dedication to our students and families. Now therefore, the Elizabethan City School Board of Education, by virtue of the power and authority vested to this governing body, do hereby declare our support and appreciation for our Elizabethan teachers. And it would be adopted and elected by the Elizabethan City Board of Education if we were to vote on this day. So comments or questions about that, or anybody want to speak to anything there? I think we've always supported our teachers. Some of us made that our lifelong profession, and certainly the people that are in the trenches now and deserve that. And again, even though the comments were directed more towards teachers, obviously we appreciate it. Just anything, any position, supervisor, administrator, director, teacher, any kind of teacher assistant, any kind of custodian, cafeteria worker, any clerical position, all of those are vital to making this system function like it does, and we appreciate them all. But to not support our teachers would be, I think, almost criminal. So, again, so the motion is to approve the Elizabethan City Schools Board of Education resolution in support of our system's professional educators. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. And any opposed? And there are none. Last item, to approve creation of one part-time teacher assistant position at Harold McCormick Elementary to cover special education student need for the 2022-2023 school year. Can I get a motion to approve? Motion, I'll take one of those as a second. All right, Mr. Van Huss.
We have some excess grant funds from compensatory service grant that we received that we will utilize to cover the pay for this employee.
Okay. All right, any comments or questions? That's kind of a typical thing this school year. You find out once the year starts when you need certain things like that. The item is to approve creation of one part-time teacher assistant position at Harold McCormick Elementary to cover special education student need for the 2022-2023 school year. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. And any opposed? And there are none. The next regularly scheduled board meeting will be held Thursday, the 13th of October at 5:30 p.m. here. Please, if you could stay, there's a document or documents for us to sign, and I just need a motion to adjourn.
Can I have one?
Yes.
I'd just like to apologize to everybody for being late and holding up the meeting. And it's not that I thought about it and just said I'm not going.
We didn't wait on you. I
We
don't know.
moved
My
right
wife walked
on.
through the
We
door
moved
and
right
said,
on.
Are you not going to the board meeting?
Same
I'm
thing.
like, yeah. I'm going.
So, but it did change. It did
Yeah.
change. So that it was moved a week ahead. So we will forgive you. But we did move on. You notice we were in the middle when you got here. All right. So.
Make a motion to adjourn.
All right. Have a good evening. Thank you.